Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another AI Talk series with Tech Mahindra. Everyone is talking about ChatGPT, generative AI, and what it can do, what it cannot do, how is it going to disrupt the overall enterprise organization today. However, time to use AI responsibly is now, like never before. And that's the topic of discussion that we have today for this panel discussion today. I'm Hemang Naik. I'm Global Head Solution Offering for AI Competency. I have two esteemed visionary leaders with me here today. Let me do a quick introduction. First, Khwaja Shaik. He's a visionary leader with over 25 plus years of experience, held various leadership positions at IBM, Bank of America, and PwC. He's currently one of the IBM CTO with financial services market. He has experience leading over $10 billion in digital transformation on various parameters like cost optimization, revenue generation, so on and so forth. He's also a board member with two different organizations, Music of Science and History, and also a board member with University of North Florida. I have a second guest, my colleague, mentor, so to say, Hasit Trivedi. He's global head for AI competency. He's also CTO for digital technologies within Tech Mahindra. Welcome both of you, and thank you for your time today. I'm sure it's going to be a very fascinating discussion today. Khwaja, my first question for you, with generative AI and advent of generative AI, right? There are a lot of being talks about, the accuracy is going to improve. There are more and more use cases now coming out, which we did not see before. With this, do you think AI, the impact of Gen AI and AI basically, right? Will it move and take AI into mainstream of organization, not just any transformational technology, so to say, right? But it will be a part of everything we do today, and it will touch everything we do today. What are your thoughts on that?
Hemang and Hasit, thank you very much for having me on this exciting panel here. What a day to start here at the right time here. Regarding your question, absolutely, there are varying levels of maturity levels based on the company size, depth of the use case, and the industry. In my view, the boards are not asking the right questions to the senior management so that you can democratize the AI across all parts of the businesses. Generative AI is like a general purpose technology that can be applied across all three stages of the firm. I would say generally you can have three stages in a firm: running the business effectively, changing the business effectively, growing the business effectively. Let's take an example of running the business effectively. You can run your business effectively. In the case of IT operations, you can infuse AI whereby you can reduce your outages. Thereby, you can improve your service levels and avoid the reputational damage and keep your customers happy across all times. So this is an area where you can run the business effectively, where you can reduce costs to run the business as well as reduce the reputational damage for your company. So that is a classic example where we have the technologies today. Those are the use cases where there's not much of a risk associated with it, because we are talking about horizontal technologies where the privacy and compliance impacts are very, very minimal. Let's take an example of changing the business. If you look at during the COVID times, where I was able to order groceries sitting at my phone, using my mobile phone, where the retailers were able to change their business processes infusing AI. So that is a classic example where you can democratize AI to incrementally drive the innovation with the minimal aspects, with a lower investment. You can change your business. Then the third stage is where there's a lot of growth, which is transforming your business for exponential growth. If you can redesign your business models where you keep AI at the heart of your business, then you can grow your business exponentially. Let's take an example in the insurance business, where today there are firms that are using drones to capture the damaged site, where literally without sending the people at the site, they are processing their claims by capturing the pictures and infusing the AI, looking at similar damages that has occurred previously, where you can transform your business fundamentally, where you can infuse it, where you are changing your business processes end to end for a transformational growth. In those scenarios, you are not only driving new revenue, new products, but also keeping your customers happy, where these customers are also bringing additional customers through referrals, and thereby you are increasing earnings growth rate. So in a nutshell, you have to look at AI as a general purpose technologies across three lenses: running the business effectively, changing the business, as well as growing the business. So that is the only way you can balance both for the short term as well as for the long term, and having the multi-stakeholder lens where you can have value across all stakeholders, employees, customers, as well as the shareholders.
Thanks, Khwaja. And I like the term used, general purpose technology for AI. That's the way we want to go towards. Hasit, your view on this?
I think if you see that so far, I think Khwaja has touched upon some things, and I would like to give a little bit technological view of that piece. He has given a good business view. So if you see, the AI is the technology was able to predict, it was able to recommend, it was able to detect most of the time, and it was able to converse also. Now it is able to create also, correct, with generative AI. So I think this was a missing spectrum of the AI capability so far. And with the generative AI, it's landed into creation job. So far, 3 months back, human was thinking that creation, language, arts, and music is a territory of human. It's the exclusivity club of human being, correct? Now AI has entered into that exclusive club as well. And certainly because of that, it will cause a lot of disruptions. Of course, it's positive as well as negative disruption would happen. And it's an opportunity to embrace the technology, and we have to be careful while adopting the technology, because it's the nature of the creation can create a lot of negativity as well. So I think that is what is happening. And Khwaja talked about the COVID, correct? I think what COVID did to digital transformation or digital adoption, I think the generative AI will be doing same thing for AI, correct? So what COVID did was an increased scale of the adoption of the digital technologies from the connectivity perspective, remote working perspective, cybersecurity perspective, cloud adoption perspective. That is the 4 things which happened very rapidly across the globe, from small and medium enterprises to large enterprises, correct? So that journey was accelerated. Those who are not part of journey got into ride of the journey. Now, similar thing, I think with generative AI, the power is given to the every end users, correct? And they can see the power. I think once humans see something tangible, unlike the previously people are trying to explain, consultants, companies, and all the world's IT service company and business consulting company are trying to explain the power of the AI. But nothing works better than consumer or end user is trying to learn on their own, which is what ChatGPT did. And because of that, the power is visible, power is known, and it is acknowledged, and thus it will drive unprecedented scale. Those who will not scale these things, certainly I think there will be serious repercussion of their competitiveness in the market. But these are the things which will emerge in coming days. An exciting time for the adoption of the AI, and I think it will become a scaling in AI will become a real agenda in the CEO. So far, the CEO were talking about as a part of panel discussions and various things, but it was not really on ground. Something was happening. I think this will change the spectrum where at lower level adoption will increase. The RPA and intelligent adoption will move towards more complex subjects of the AI, where what Khwaja said that instead of running the business effectively, which in Tech Mahindra parlance we say zero ops, to going into the growth and newer business opportunity, which we in Tech Mahindra we call infinity ops. So going from zero ops paradigm to going to infinity ops is the something which will be absorbed by the industry.
Yeah, rightly said, Hasit. Khwaja, I have just extension to this particular question itself, right? As the adoption of AI increases, and like you said, could be a general purpose technology as well, and it gets to mature more and more, how do enterprises ensure the responsible and ethical use of AI?
Yeah, it was a good question. I remember John C. Maxwell's quote, everything rises and falls on leadership. So if you don't have AI ethics board in your current firm, I advise them to establish right now. It is with a greater urgency that every company needs to have AI ethics board right now. And responsible use of AI technology is everyone's business, similar to cybersecurity. As AI can be applied across all parts of the business, whether it is employee facing or consumer facing, we need to make sure we shift this conversation towards the left. Similar to the way we have, security, we should not be treating security and privacy as a police cops, where you try to think that they are trying to stifle the innovation. You have to treat security and privacy as the value enablers for the business. Same conversation here. When we talk about AI, you need to make sure the AI is proliferated across all parts of the business. I strongly believe in embedding design thinking, because the purpose of AI is to augment the human intelligence. When you infuse design thinking, you automatically have an interdisciplinary team to drive value for your specific use cases. And when we talk about AI, I always believe in applying a risk-based approach. You can look into risk across 3 types: the potential risk associated with the input, the potential risk associated with the output, potential risk associated with the governance. When we talk about the input, we need to make sure the data that you collect, it does not have the data bias, you do not have copyright issues, etc. So if you make sure that your data is well diverse, then you at least make sure that your outcomes are the right outcomes. When we talk about the risk associated with the output, we need to make sure you do not have hallucinations. You need to make sure there is not intended purposes where the malicious actors can get access to your data and thereby driving a different outcome. So the security and privacy should be embedded, and you need to make sure you validate your output for your AI. And the last part, where a lot of people ignore, is all about governance risk. You may have a strategic mandate around sustainability, as an example, but you might be sending the data to the cloud and running your AI model, generating a significant energy consumption because the type of use case that you have chosen, the return on investment model does not work, and literally your sustainability imperatives is in conflict with your AI strategy. So you need to make sure you need to have a comprehensive AI strategy. Last month, IBM released the Watson X platform. It has got 3 main components: one for data, one for AI, and the third for the governance. There are a lot of vendors out there who are only good on one of the 3 things. They may say that they have a full AI, but they're only good at the data to a certain extent. Or there might be some vendors out there where they may be good on AI, but not all the 3. I view that data, AI, and governance are like a 3-leg stool. If one of the 3 legs are missing, then you are causing more damage than value to the AI. So in a nutshell, you need to have a comprehensive AI strategy. You cannot outsource your AI strategy to an API call, and you need to make sure you view it more like a nutritional labels. I know today, when I visit a grocery store, I see a nutritional label where I can identify how much calories it has got, how much cholesterol you have. When you look at the ingredients, if you don't understand any of those languages, and if it is written in Latin, and if all the words that you see is not in a common language, then you know that it is not a whole food. So you need to make sure your AI also needs to have a very good fact label so that you can measure its fairness, transparency, and all those capabilities, so that you are making sure that you are deploying it wisely. And then lastly, when we talk about AI, there are 3 different views: developer view, deployer view, and the consumer view. There are certain responsibilities, similar to the way we talk about in cybersecurity, the RACI matrix, in terms of the cloud modernization, who is responsible for what. Same thing, the developers have got certain guidelines where they need to follow, so that when the regulators comes in, they know that the products that they are developing are complying with the privacy needs. Same thing, deployer. When you are deploying it, you need to make sure you are adhering to the GDPR regulations. If there is data involved with European regulations, as an example. And as a consumer, let's take an example of employee-facing use case where, as an employee, you're asking some prompts to a certain API call. You don't want to end up your confidential data on the public domain. So you need to look at holistically, so that your AI, you need to have a risk-based approach in finding the right use case and how you deploy it.
Thanks, Khwaja. And Hasit, what's your view? How is what are the risks and challenges associated with the increasing adoption of AI?
I think any disruptive technology, if you see historically, had a lot of risk as well as the negative also as well as positive. So I think if you see the nuclear technology, it can be positively used and it can be destructively used also. Correct? So I think the various historical AI technologies are also can cause a risk also. So you can use the various techniques to create a frauds, and you can use the same technique to avoid the fraud also. And with the quantum and all those things coming in, I think that those technology will be used for the cyber attacks also. It will be used for the detecting the anomalies due to cyber attack also. So it's a duality existing in each of these things. And I think nuclear technology has been regulated, I think the AI also needs to be regulated correctly. It at all level. I think it starts from the people who are creating, they have to be made accountable. The country level accountability and regulations based on local context. Local copyright laws, I think it has to be enforced. I think if you see and one thing we need to learn from history, the music industry are still fighting for the digital copyrights, and people have done various things, and there is no answer for last 2 decades, correct? Potentially it was because that was only an industry impacted by digital replicas. Now with this generative AI, I think almost every industry's copyright gets challenged, correct? And I think there's time that individual country creates such kind of copyright regulations, and it will create, I'm sure, and those enterprise has to be very careful while adopting any of this technology. As Khwaja said, and I just happened to discuss with the Watson X team back in, and Manish Bide is the person, I think I spoke with him yesterday from IBM, and I think some of the things which I heard looks to be very promising. I think the approach I saw is different, and certainly if every company start focusing on the what data you're training, I think creator has to be accountable for the what they're creating from, correct? Not only the output, the input they're processing. I think if it is legally sanitized and it has been used judiciously, then of course the output will also be appropriate. So I think various accountability has to be established. Who will be given the credit? Who will be made accountable? I think those are the very important thing which will mostly govern by the local government regulations. And because that regulations is bound to come, maybe 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, it may take time because government works in a certain fashion. But because it is going to come, the enterprise while adopting has to keep that in mind, because you should not be wrong side of the law whenever it gets created. At that time, a reverse journey will be very difficult. So I think, and I think again, responsible AI has been a talk of the town for almost 3-4 years, correct? But it's only talk of the town. Nothing on ground. People have done it, correct? So as I keep telling it, so it's a subject of CXOs and panel discussions, but not to the people who are actually doing work. I think it's time again to adopt responsible AI and the enterprise scale approach to that thing, rather than, okay, I have a use case which has an explainability, I have the use case which has been taken care from the bias and all those things. I have some SHAP implementation, I have some experimental framework, use case by use case, but that is a piecemeal approach. It is subject to the individuals involved in the projects. I think the enterprise scale, the responsible AI adoption of technology, strategies, governance, process, method has to come into picture. And I think, Khwaja, I keep following you in various things. You talk about the ethical aspect and governance aspect of the technology in general. I think these things will become reality, correct? I think the chief ethical officer, AI ethical officer, will be potentially a new role which enterprise will have to adopt. And it may potentially become a regulatory needs also. I do not know, correct? Like you have CISO in every company, you may have the chief AI ethic officer in the company, which may be mandated by the government, because it's very sensitive. Because if you see the way the technologies are created, Google are creating from the trillions of videos and trillions of Google search data which they have. Microsoft creating with a lot of data which they have on LinkedIn or other things, MS Office piece which they have. Facebook, a lot of data from the various conversations people are doing in Facebook. So I think all these companies are having custodian of a lot of data, correct? And it thus becomes disproportionately powerful in this technology spectrum. So I think responsibility also has a different spectrum, that how this open source is getting proprietary. I think how this technology is getting created also needs to come in, because over a period of time, if you see a lot of in last one decade, a lot of open source has become a proprietary and bought in by certain large enterprises, correct? I think that also needs certain checks and balances, because the people who have contributed to open source have done it with certain expectation and certain belief and certain presumptions, correct? Which no more holds true once it becomes proprietary. And how do we govern that piece? And it's a big challenge for lawmakers and people. I think certainly there will be reluctance for people to contribute unless the regulations comes into picture, right? Credits are given, right? Monetization has been given, correct? If at all it is allowed to become a proprietary, correct? Then that mechanics has to be in place. I don't know how it's valued. I don't know who gets credit. Maybe the only 10 people who started this open sources. So I think a lot of elements. It's very complex subjects. It's country level, enterprise level, but it is subject to be pondered because it is a serious legal repercussions. Some of the countries are very good at the rights of the information protections, and any consumer can go into court of misuse of anything, correct? And your enterprise might be on wrong side of the things. So I think it's a serious topic. It has to be, and some of the copyright aspects are kind of uncapped liability, correct? And you can put the whole company at risk. So it has to be looked into very, very carefully. Regulations, training, and technology adoptions are the three mechanics by which we can do these things.
I think that's very helpful. Now, see, I mean, we talked about the business impact and of course the regulation around it, but with the power which AI brings, right? There are a lot of global challenges: climate change, poverty, healthcare issues, and all, right? So while adopting AI, how can I use this technology for some of this outcome? How can I make sure that it is applicable for some of these problems which are there across the world? Hasit, why don't you go first this time?
Okay, I think Khwaja just touched upon that taking care of the various sustainability effort while adopting generative AI technology or AI technology. I think it's a very valid point because these technologies are very compute hungry as of today. Assuming that the LLM is the way forward for the AI, which I hope it's not the way forward and something new emerges, because the LLM is pretty costly. If you see the typical search technology, old search technology, and compare with the generative AI-based search, I think generative AI-based search is 5 times more compute hungry than the traditional search mechanics. So certainly, you are being irresponsible of utilizing this technology. Already, the data center footprint of this hyperscalers are pretty huge. Correct? And if you assume that every search becomes a generative AI based, then certainly we are talking about the 5 times increase in compute needs of the global planet, and that means 5 times more energy consumption, heat generations, and all those things. So certainly, I think this will not be sustainable for sure. And I hope that that it's an early stage of the LLM, and thus the technology is still not matured enough, and more efficient technology will come. It may be LLM itself. Either we consume less compute, or we figure out the compute type which is beyond GPUs and CPUs and FPGAs, which is more efficient in energy nature. So I think, and combination of both will happen. I'm sure that this debate will happen, and this will lead to the completely new kind of hardware emergence. I think that the world will be beyond CPUs and GPUs, and newer things will emerge because of the same reason. I think that there will be enough need from the enterprises on a ESG front to consume less compute on this aspect, and this will not be sustainable. At the same time, you may not need billions of dollars or billions of parameters to do every small things. Correct? I think this large model may not be needed for every purpose. So there might be tinier version will emerge, or this whole paradigm that you need to have prediction model of text to generate a response, that itself might be questioned. Correct? There might be newer kind of hypothesis will emerge to generate a response or create certain kind of art. Prediction of words or prediction of pixels may not be the right mechanics. Clearly, our brain doesn't work that way. Correct? So certainly, it has to be our biological science people and the compute people and the AI people has to come together to figure out how the brain works and potentially try to mimic. And I think that would lead to somewhere where the ESG elements and climate change elements are addressed. And of course, this technology this AI in general will help to figure out what is going wrong. Correct? So detect the anomalies at various places, that your leakages on this thing, your optimizations of various machineries, and your use of the compute is optimized. So in general, AI will help you to reduce the carbon footprint, but at the same time, AI potentially may lead to the increasing corporate footprint also. I think this is a trade-off and various things will emerge to come it together. I think I'll leave Khwaja to add something on top of it.
Yeah, absolutely, Sasid. I think you have summarized it very nicely. And again, just like the way we talk about the cloud is like a spectrum of technologies where different types of workloads require different demands. As you can look back, lot of only like 10% of the workloads have migrated to the cloud because a lot of your business processes are inside the firm, the way that your systems have been developed. And there is a trend now towards more about hybrid cloud, where you get more value with hybrid cloud versus going all in with the cloud. Same concept applies here. You really don't need to migrate your entire data to the cloud to run your AI models. When the systems of records are in your data centers, you can easily infuse AI within your mainframe, and thereby you can drive the outcome from the data that you have. Basically, AI will go wherever there is data is. Today, wherever the data is there, you literally have to look into the spectrum of the use cases, depending on what use case, identifying the right AI model and driving the right value. This is where the centers of excellence comes in. I'm sure Tech Mahindra has the AI Center of Excellence. Same thing, IBM also has got the centers of excellence for AI. There's a big gap between the understanding the potential of use case and deploying it, the technology wisely. And it also starts from the top. The SEC has come up with some regulations on the corporate boards where you need to have cybersecurity expertise on the corporate board. Same thing, I would say you also need AI expertise on the corporate board so that it is a transformative technology to grow your business. And the days are not far off where the SEC may demand to have AI expertise on the corporate board. That way you can drive the governance of your business where you are directly impacting the G pillar of ESG. In my view, you must first lead with the G pillar of ESG so that you can lead effectively both the E pillar and the S pillar. So the more diverse team that you have from the top, you have a more diverse thinking so that you will mitigate the risk wisely, and also you push the innovation aspects of it. You do more experiments so that you can drive better outcomes where the societal value and business value can be inextricably linked to drive value.
So Hemang, if you permit, and Khwaja, if you permit, I want to ask a question, Khwaja, because you are so closely and you are pretty passionate about the ESG as a subject, and potentially I would like to understand from you that what are we talking here? The generative AI being potentially the increasing the carbon footprint for the enterprises, correct? Is it something you think that the board and the CXOs of customers you may interact are aware and they have started thinking, or what is your reading that how serious people at ground whom you're talking with the CXOs, are they aware and are they thinking, or if they are serious about this subject?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think it all depends on the maturity of the organization. I would classify it into two buckets. There are certain firms who are leading the industry, the forward-thinking companies who are leading this industry. That is right now the board conversation here. How do we make sure sustainability, like ESG, is embedded into the business strategy? To me, ESG is not an ad hoc enabler where you try to build some CSR reports into the public. This is all we are doing it. But when you go into the metrics in terms of what you are measuring it, you're not really doing it. So you have to integrate ESG into the business strategy. When you integrate it into the business strategy, then all along, then you will be driving value. Same thing, artificial intelligence. AI should not be looking at as an enabler, similar to like a mobile enablement as an example. You can't treat that as a mobile interface to your business. You have to treat it AI as an AI. It should be integrated into your business strategy, which means that whether you call it as human capital management oversight, there are talent implications for AI. When you talk about the technology and innovation committee oversight of the board, you need to make sure how many experiments we are doing for AI, how many are successful, what is the operating model implications of it. When we talk about nominating and governance aspects of the board, you need to make sure whether we are hiring the right level of senior management. Does the various senior leaders reporting the CEO, are they working very cooperatively. That way, if one leader is driving sustainability, while another leader is driving the carbon footprint, then they are not going wisely. So to answer your question, I think it is there is a varying levels of maturity across the various organizations. And what I feel is this is more like a moral imperative. So don't try to grow your business only yourself. Help the industry to lead the organization. There are a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises who don't have army of resources to think strategically and drive value. Similar to the way the maturity we have in the cybersecurity space, in financial services industry, in cybersecurity, there's a lot of collaboration within the banks to make sure they are driving the security conversations to make the entire financial services industry protected. Same conversation we need to have in AI, where we need to be leading the industry, helping the small and medium-sized enterprises so that they responsibly deploy AI and make sure that this is more like a symbiosis. ESG and artificial intelligence, security, privacy, we all need to look into holistically. They all are interconnected, especially when we are living in an interconnected world. We should not be having two different types of technologies and try to have a silo mindset and thereby causing more risk.
Okay, thanks for a pretty elaborate answer. I think it enlightens me. Yeah, thank you very much. Hemang, over to you.
Thanks, Khwaja. Yeah, one last thing, we talked about process, we talked about technology. One of the other important pillar for every enterprise is the people. What is the impact of this, and how should one, get rescale about it, or what's going to happen with the people part of it, right? Hasid, I think I'll have you answer this. I'm sure we are handling within TechM as well quite a bit.
Yeah, I think it's a very important aspect, and it's again a question which comes to mankind whenever the newer technologies come. Correct, when the motor was invented, or electricity was invented, or computing power was invented, internet came. I think all these questions were valid. But if you are a believer of AI and data, then data proves that whenever new technology has come, there is an increase in job. But of course, they are not the same job. They are different kind of jobs. The quantum of job in global economy has always increased with the advent of technology, because the productivity of the enterprise increases, and productivity increases, and the human productivity also increases, and the greed of human also increases. Correct. I think the greed increases, and consumerization happens, more consumption happens, more needs gets emerged, new products get created, newer services get created, and thus new jobs created. That is a hypothesis which has been proven over a period of time with the data. So there's no way to not believe that this will not continue. Right? If you go by data based predictions, so I think this will continue. But at the same time, you have the existing jobs and existing people, which is what every enterprise has to take care. And the only way is that reskilling. I think there's no easy answer to this piece. The reskilling, refactoring is a thing. So while you adopt this thing, you have to have the plan of adoption of the technology as well as plan of reskilling and refactoring as well. Correct. So how the jobs will be moving from one value chain to other value chain, within the same value chain or across the value chain. I think those are the clear strategy. All the human resources and business head needs to come together to work it out. I think that so far the disruption was incremental in nature, and thus it happened organically. So I think that there's always more demand than supply of human capital, and thus it got adjusted automatically without even serious intervention point. But I think from here on, if I see the 10-15 years kind of spectrum, may not be next 2-3 years, but if it's a 10 to 15 years, the impact of these technologies will be very humongous, and thus the need of special interventions and special strategy for reskilling and refactoring would be needed. And I think and it will have large scale implications to the people of various kind of jobs. Correct. And I think that strategy would be needed, cognizance of the fact that acknowledging the fact, because sometimes what happens that we keep denying we are in denial mode, there is no impact to jobs. Correct. I think if till the time we keep saying that there is no impact to job, I think we will be fooling ourselves, and will not be having a strategy in place. I think acceptance that human productivity will increase significantly in next 10 to 15 years, and assuming that it improves by 10 to 15% productivity improvement in the next 10 to 15 years, which is in line with potentially what we would have seen in last 10, 20 years. But assuming that is also continuing with the larger base, I think it will be a significant need of upskilling. I think, and I'm sure that the productivity will improve larger than that and job which exists today may not exist tomorrow, but newer kind of jobs will come. That would mean that human capital is finite, and that same has to deploy to some other case of things. And the enterprise who are able to refactor and reskill will be able to churn out this thing better for their benefit.
Yeah, the reskilling is very important. At IBM, we have given away a lot of courses for free for the universities as well as for anybody who wants to learn the new skills. Again, going back to my previous comment, there are certain companies who are good in driving growth, but there are certain companies who are great, who are addressing the society's greatest challenges. So leaders are those who are addressing the greatest challenges. So this is where it comes in. Like as I was mentioning, at IBM, we have given away the courses freely so that everybody can learn, whether it is a design thinking or artificial intelligence or cloud and so on and so forth. And we are helping the university ecosystem. We have given away the quantum technology for the university researchers. That way they can experiment it. Another aspect I would tell you is having sat on the board of University of North Florida and Museum of Science and History. Unfortunately, our education system has been trained with too much focus on STEM. And all these children, they always try to study to come to the top. They want to be valedictorian of the school, etc., etc. There's a lot of competition among the students within the class. And when they come out into the job market, when they join the companies, they are not a good team player. So it is very much important that you embed values and ethics right at the school level. At the end of the day, the purpose of AI is to augment human intelligence. The products that we are developing is going to help the humanity. So I would say, you have to teach humanities as well at the school level, so that when they come out, they have a concept of design thinking where they embed user experience aspects of it. The technology that they are building, is it helping the community or is it harming the community? If you look at the social media technologies, the technologies that have been created through social media, it has so much harmful impact. So you have to look at fundamentally all the structures that are in place. We need to educate our workforce to make sure the values are embedded as they become the creators. And then from the board standpoint, Gen Z is coming up, the demographics are changing. The youngsters are looking at more of value creation. So you have to make sure that you give the opportunities to the youngsters. You need to groom them. That way they can create the better world.
Thanks, Khwaja. That was interesting. And with that, I think I come to the end here. And thank you so much, Hasit and Khwaja. It was really insightful, really, really good insights which came out of this discussion. And I'm sure the viewers are going to enjoy as well. Thank you so much once again.